This call may be monitored and recorded for quality assurance.
What are you looking to do?
Well, so we have carriage doors that are about they're about 5 by 7, so 5 by 6 really, 5, 6.5. They're made of wood, of pine. They're 2¼ inches wide. I would bet they weigh 120 pounds maybe a piece, but that's without glass. We're going to put some glass in them, so they could be, 300 pounds with a window in them. So they will have a little bit of weight to them. We were hoping to use maybe like a door style hinge, use your traditional, closing door rather than like a gate style. And I heard that might even be stronger anyway. And that's actually what this guy in this article used. When he wrote the article, he said he used, that style. Any opinion on that or suggestions on that?
No, because I don't know what hinge type you're referring to. What exactly is it? Or what's a part number of it?
Well, you had so many. It looked like you have different gauges of strength.
No,
and then, of course, different.
The one you're referring to from this article, what exactly was used?
Unfortunately, he didn't say. But it was your traditional, like, house door hinge, right? Just closing hinge, whatever you call that.
Yeah, it's probably an awful idea to consider that type of hardware for hanging something that will be 300 pounds and 6 foot wide. It'll fail, period.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
You're going to want pivots for sure. You want the load to be borne by the earth rather than that hinge leaf. I'd like to, if you want to forward me the article, whatever else, and any drawings you have or sketches or architecturals of the door, I'd love to participate in the conversation. Hanging weird things is like I don't know, it's mostly the call that I get.
Yeah. And this is nothing. This is a homemade project, so we don't have any drawings. But I can send you a nice picture. The doors are completed and built.
Oh, I'd love
I could send you a picture with dimensions, and then I can also forward you that article too. Because he suggested that he even said that he called you guys and got some good advice too. Of course, this is a very old article. I mean, I think it was like 10 years old or something. So who knows?
Yeah. So, the problem is the width. It's not the weight.
Well, so the doorways, the garage door is 10 feet wide. So these will be 5 feet wide. And they're made of pine, so it's the lightest wood we could get. And they're not completely, the frame is 3 pieces of pine, but the centers are just a single tongue and groove. So there is, it doesn't feel that heavy when you lift it. In fact, I have a solid wood front door. I would bet that weighs about the same. And we haven't put glass in yet, and I don't think we're required to put like a double pane glass. So I'm thinking even for weight, we might be able to just put a single sheet of glass. It's not a huge window. It might be like 24 inches by 30, maybe 36.
That won't weigh very much. You could do a 1-inch insulated unit with 1/8-inch tempered panes. That's not that heavy. The issue, that's not that heavy.
The issue is just the size of the door itself, I guess. Huh? It's so wide.
Well, it's cantilevering the weight off of the vertical axis of pivoting. And that's the problem. And it's also where the vertical axis of pivoting is in relationship to the center of the thickness of the door. And, this door, are these going to be mechanically operated by Carriage?
No, this little garage is really just utility space. We're not going to put a car in it. It's going to actually be a little painting studio. So the use of it is not, it's not like it's got to open and close daily for cars or anything. In fact, it'll probably just be more occasional use than anything, because there is side doors to this building too. So this is just more of an accent to the front of it to have access in if the weather's nice or something. But I think the wear and tear on it might be a little less than a typical garage.
But it's extremely inelegant what people have resorted to doing after they've paddled so far upstream that that's too far to turn back because they've added a caster.
Right.
So,
right.
I'll very much enjoy seeing your email. And there's hardware that'll do it. It just but it's going to be is this a single acting? It's obviously a swing out only.
Yeah, swing out only.
Oh,
yep,
okay. Yeah. Pivots are going to do the job, and pivots will do it all day long. But I'd like to see the reference point because clearly there was some measure of success originally, and I don't want to reinvent the wheel if we don't have to.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's fair enough. All right, let me. I'm guessing your email's on your website.
It's the sales email that's there, sales@absupply.net. My name is Richard. That comes. That will definitely be flagged for me.
Okay.
Cool. My kids are the 5th generation, and they stay away from the goofy stuff.
Yeah, that's great. So I'll take a couple pictures and I'll put together an email for you. And I'd love the feedback because we'd like to get something ordered. We do have to hang these pretty soon, so I want to figure out something. But it sounds like you of anybody would probably know more than anywhere else. So if we get something to work, that would be awesome.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, it's just a matter of the cost effective and long term. Not going to be someone else's problem in 5 years situation. So absolutely. Send me an email.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay, great. I'll do that. Thanks, Richard.
You're welcome, sir. Bye-bye.
All right. See you. Bye.
If you've not hit subscribe yet, we would very much appreciate if you did, and hopefully you're enjoying this video. Now, let's get back to it.
Okay, let's take a look at what the client sent us, and we'll get an idea of how we feel about the project. So the client had mentioned his carriage doors. Apparently this is a 10-foot wide opening, all good, maybe 7 foot tall. Looks awesome. I'm going to imagine that they're going to swing out because of what's happening inside of here. That would make sense naturally. So I don't see anything unusual about this except what I like is the fact that the jam is that the thickness of the casing is probably 1x material. There is no stop on the jam, or jams would be my guess. I think I can see a stop at the header. That's probably adequate. Obviously, I'd like to see a stop on the jams as well, because otherwise you're going to have the ability for weather to enter right through there. So maybe he's going to add stops on the jams. What I would consider doing is removing that stop, and I would get some 1x material that would go from the inside face, turn it into a single rabbet is what I would do. I would miter it at the headers, whatever pine is being used, paint it to match. I would also then kerf the material for the Q-Lon style weather stripping. I would do that at the header, the jams and the header. And let's talk about that weather stripping right now. I like, let's just say Q107BL, thinking of a part number off the top of my head. Don't really like that. Let's go Q102BL. Yeah, something like this. So let's say that the client orders some 10-foot lengths. We can ship it in a roll. And what you end up doing is kerfing that. You'll take the stop, the applied stop, is what it's going to be, and you're going to run it down a router table, or you're going to put it on your table saw, whatever you're going to do. I would make a 1/8 deep, 3/8 long kerf before I applied it, and that's what I would do for weather stripping. It's too easy to do the work, and the material's really inexpensive. And it is very effective at sealing that area. So I would definitely do that. Let's look at all the photos. Apparently these are the doors that are made or being made. Looks super cool. Like that a lot. Not sure, that could just be wainscot that's there. Looks awesome. Yeah, if you've got insulation on your outside walls, you probably want to tighten up that doorway as well. Okay, there's the jamb. Yeah, I like that. That reveal that's there is probably well adequate for the barrel of a hinge. Actually, that can't be his door. I suppose it can be if it's a distorted view. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, that could certainly be the door. Okay. That's the jamb. Awesome. Going to do something here with a hanging device. And that is... Let's take a look at what that is. Side of door. Let's open that. Okay. Yeah. Looks fun. Something happening there on the side. Great. Fun looking carriage door. Carriage door because it's a door in a garage. For your carriage. Not for your automobile. This was for your carriage. Or, yeah, whatever. Looks great. So, at the end of the day, how do you want to hang this door? But before we get into that, let's talk about continuing to weather seal it. I would absolutely... It'd be really ideal to have nothing down here at all. No threshold, nothing. So I would certainly want to bring the carriage doors, assuming that the concrete pour goes away, and you can have like a 1/4 inch, 3/8 or a 1/2 inch dimension clearance from the bottom of the door to the top of the concrete. I would really want to put an automatic door bottom. And an example of that, you've got 5 foot wide, so let's take a look at what I have. Okay, let's take a look. Find something for sure. Yeah. So I would like, and this is just us having a conversation. I'd like to see an automatic door bottom there, meaning every time that you close the doors, this entire insert's going to drop. Okay? It's going to look like that in the edge of your door, but when that plunger bolt gets pushed in as a result of the doors closing, this is going to drop. This entire drop bar assembly is what it is. The length of the drop, maybe 1/2 inch. Absolutely at least 1/2 inch. This should be a lot easier to find. Clearance between the unit and the finished floor is ideally 3/8 inch. So if that's possible, that's what you'd want to maintain. I'm not seeing it listed here where there's a maximum drop. It's for sure 1/2 inch, for sure, if not 5/8. So if that can be accommodated, you toss those, they're special order, but you toss these automatic door bottoms along with your Q-Lon, your Q10, whatever we came up with, 102, 107. I think you're going to have a really great sort of look on the installation. So weather sealing it is nice. Now, what's nice about those automatic door bottoms is every time that you open and close the door, you're not dragging anything on the concrete pad. It only drops when the doors push close. Now, having said that, how are we going to secure these doors? As far as I'm concerned, security is not a major issue. There's lots of ways to do this. Obviously, flush bolts on one door. You could do flush bolts on both doors where you have a key-operated flush bolt on the active. You could do surface bolts on the inside. You can have no way to get in without going through this side door that's peeking out here, and you're just going to use surface bolts on the inside, period, end of sentence. But depending on what the client wants, and by the way, I would wholly suggest that, let's go back to weather stripping. I would also add an astragal to the meeting style. This is probably going to be, let's pull up the catalog. I would add an astragal because it would, A, look really nice, and B, it's going to seal that area off between the two doors. And it's also going to give you the ability to use that same type of curved-in style gasketing is what it will give you. By the modern invention of the bookmark, this would be a lot easier to find. This is it. I would absolutely add this concept of an astragal just to close that off and to seal it and to eliminate that line of sight that you're going to have. So just another idea. I would personally put something there. Plus, if the margin between your doors is not exactly perfect, top to bottom, that closes off that line of sight there. It really will disguise that you've got a 3/16, at the bottom, and you've got 3/32 at the top. So I would consider that. These, as I had said, it uses a Q102, so that's going to work out really well in addition to that. And so that's good. I would want to definitely seal all four sides. Now, if you didn't want to do the curved-in weather stripping, you could do right to the jam. And if you weren't going to add stops to the jams, what you could do is put on all three sides a brush at a 45-degree angle, which is used for these applications. Yeah, something like this, really nice. Doesn't give you a lot of additional force when you're pushing the doors closed. Not that you would really recognize that, but something like this, and you'll know that it works because you'll see it on traditional overhead doors. They use an angle. It's usually a vinyl fin that's here, but I would consider something like that. Okay. Now let's talk about the hanging device. Now the client had mentioned a article that he said that I was referenced. I wasn't referenced. Let's pull up that article. And by the way, the client says that the doors are 2 1/4 thick, and they're 60-inch wide, and they're 7 foot tall. See Moist, the blog of Christian Moist, past work projects and ideas. Okay. Building huge carriage style doors. cmoist.com/building-huge-carriage-style-doors is the URL. So he details how he built the doors. Yeah, this is typical what we would call stile and rail construction. If you looked in the Architectural Woodworking Institute's standard, AWI, the AWI book, I don't think stile and rail is in section 1300, but there are guidelines for this. Well, because I've mentioned it, let me see if I can actually show it to you. Support, company profile, industry information, national organizations, AWI. Yeah, section 9? Maybe it's section 9. Oh, yeah. Well, they referred to types of joinery here. Yeah, okay. So section 9. This is the industry governing document when it comes to this material. So this is a handy document to be able to take a look at. AWI, specifically for me, section 1300 is the absolute governing document when it comes to flush architectural wood doors. And if you deal with wood in a wood shop, you would probably enjoy looking at this, because they talk about what the veneer appearance is based on how you cut the log, whether you plane slice it, or whether you quarter it, or whether you rift cut it, or whether you rotary cut it. And how you lay up the flitches on the face of the door will give you different end results. the way that you take those flitches and run them together in a set. And you better believe if you're doing custom bifolds, you're going to want to tell the factory how you want them, how you want the flitches. This piece of veneer is the flitch. So you're going to want to tell them, this is what I want it to look like. If you're going to paint the material, you won't specify anything because you'll probably just specify it as paint grade, and it'll do the least expensive thing possible. But if you're doing, they're showing a pair of doors here. It looks like there's 4 doors here because this just defines the flitches. But when I order a pair of doors and they're wood and they're not paint grade, I'm gonna identify them as pair matched, and you'll tell them either one side or both sides. And if it's both sides, you're gonna tell them pair match whatever side, pull side, push side, inside, outside, whatever hinge side, non-hinge side, as long as you incorporate that. Now, what the client was doing with the images, also, when we were making doors in the shop, stile and rail doors, we're absolutely looking at laying all of those boards out. This client's not painting these doors. I don't believe he's painting them. We're looking at laying these boards out so that they are as pair matched as possible, so that they look symmetrical when you stand 20 feet away. So hopefully the client was thinking about that. And this document touches on that stuff. In the wood industry, everything has to be specified. And what's awful about the wood industry is you're best served to learn all about it. That's what's awful. But what's great about it is you can specify everything. You can't define the grain pattern on wood because it's a natural product, but you can do a lot of specifying on this stuff. Yeah. Okay. So now we were talking about weather stripping. We're talking about how to hang these doors, and we've covered weather stripping at length. So, forgive me. It's the article. So the client, this Christian Moist goes on to talk about building the doors. Awesome. This all looks beautiful. And actually, I'm not convinced that the client must have sent a screen capture of what, it doesn't really matter, but it looks really great. And building these doors is not out of reach. I mean, you're going to need glue, and you're going to need probably a planer, and you're going to need a router. But at the end of the day, it's not hard to do this. I spoke to a different client this morning, and he called me about a lock for how to lock a 3-inch thick door, and he's literally laying. He right now is 4 months into maybe a 6 or a 12-month cycle of the lumber going through seasons and drying out before he builds them into doors. And that's the other thing about the astragal. Looks like we're pretty good here, but possibly less so here. Hard to say, but that astragal will cover that gap. Now, what's interesting about what the client has here, you don't see any hinges. So I'm assuming that they're either put in place and held in with shims, which could be the case, or they are in swing, or he's used possibly concealed hinges. I don't see any evidence of how this has been hung. So priming the doors, he has some bolts. Those are going to be surface bolts, no doubt. Oh, you can see he took my idea. Christian, you stole my idea. You've got the weather stripping there. That's exactly what I recommend this client do. I don't like that idea. Don't splice it, just buy the longer lengths. Now, the article mentioned these are called chain bolts. These are called cane bolts. Cane. Very typical for carriage doors. Extremely common hardware. Inexpensive, readily available. It's really cheap hardware. You're not going to get a super high quality chain bolt, but it is what it is. Okay, so now he's got them hung, and he has an astragal, and I'll tell you, what I don't love are those hinges. Just don't love them. it just detracts from the overall look. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4. You see 4 bearing packets there. It's going to be important to remember that. There's the hinge. Now, that logo, I know that's the Boston Architectural Hinge Company logo. They are out of business. They just stopped importing hinges. Nice people over there, the whole 9 yards. This hinges for $100. That's not accurate, and I'm gonna show you why that's not accurate. It's not off the mark. No, I don't think so, Hal. No, I don't. Facebook Marketplace, maybe? I'm not sure where you're getting all this for that price, but peace and love. Bear with me. I want to find the question of where he was asked. Okay. How was you able to purchase the hinges directly from Boston Architectural? I called them and they redirect me to AB Supply. That's me. I'm AB Supply. I'm a distributor. Also, are you using 4.5, 4.5, or 5 by 4.5? Tom, the hinges were 5 by 5, Boston Architectural Hinge Company, part number BB0191. They're not, and I'll tell you why they're not. NRP and a 32D. Yeah, they're probably 32D and they're probably NRP. They also told me they don't typically sell to the public, but in the end they did. That's obviously offensive to distributors like me because I have no reason to stock their product and to support them as a company when they sell direct to the public. So because Boston Architectural Hinge in the years I've sold their product, I've never heard that they were selling direct to market, so I don't believe they were. Now, how do I know it wasn't a BB0191? Now, it's only germane because we're talking about how to hang this door. I know that it wasn't because there are 4 bearing packets clearly visible here. That's a hallmark of a heavyweight hinge. These hinges are clearly heavyweight. They're thicker, leafs, and they have 4 bearing packets. A BB0191 is a standard weight, and it will only have 2 bearing packets. So this client used a heavyweight hinge. Now, what could have happened is maybe whoever he bought these from sent him the heavyweight. That part number, again, would be BB019. Pardon me, I didn't say it. The heavyweight is a BB0199 NRP 32D. So, and you can easily, BB0199, I don't know if I still have their products in my site, I might. Yeah, okay, so here it is. And also the question was asked, were they 4.5, 4.5, or 5 by 4.5? If you're going to use hinges, yeah, I mean, and this price hasn't really changed since that article was written. You've got $250 of hinges for what's installed, not $100. Even if it was, it doesn't matter. So my suggestion, if you're intent on using hinges, absolutely use 5-inch. That extra ½ inch is tremendous in terms of holding that door up, vertical, true plumb level, and square. In fact, if it was me, I would go with 6-inch tall hinges. I would go 6 by 4.5, solid stainless. But I would inquire whether or not they could be supplied in a painted finish. I don't know what color you're doing everything, but I don't want to see all that silver on the door. To me, it's just, it takes away from the look. The best, hardware is best when it's not seen, in my opinion. So 70% of the weight of the door is held by that top hinge. So the taller your hinge is, the better that hinge is at hanging the door. So here's a template, really easy to machine and mortise for these, super simple, easy peasy. Now what I would prefer, here's what I would prefer, and meaning here are some alternate ideas. I like the Sauce 220. It's a concealed hinge. It is certainly going to be more expensive, but when the door is closed, you will never see evidence of how you've hung it. There's a couple of things that are really important about this. You may not have the real estate, so to speak, of getting this installed, or any Sauce hinge, because you need a lot of room. This is 1 63/64, so 2-inch. So you'd have to mortise into the jamb and then drill back into the structure behind the jamb. Hopefully double wood studs are there to get this installed. But at the end of the day, it will make easy work of hanging the weight of that door. Easy work. Yeah, it's 5 foot. The thing is, it's you're taking all of the weight that's out here, all of this weight, and you're putting it right here on this. It just wants to do this. Because of where the vertical axis of pivoting is on this sauce hinge, certainly when the door is closed, it's contained within the thickness of the door. Super amazing. Now, if that's not going to work, I would strongly suggest pivot hardware. I like the 0147, and because of the thickness, I would go with the 1.5" offset. Let's see if I have a template here. Yeah, this is what I would use. This is a 3/4 offset. That's the wrong template. Let's see if the cut sheet. Yeah, perfect. This will work. I like the pivot hardware because the earth is going to hold all of the weight of the door. You're not going to be stressing a hinge, 70% of the load being applied to that top hinge. That door is going to want to sit on the earth, and this pivot's going to hold it up. Now, this 0147, it's probably rated, 350 pounds. So it's 1.5" offset, and what that means is from the face of the door, I'll show you what it means. Yeah, well, this will work. From the face of the door to the vertical axis of pivoting is 1.5". This is an 0147 3/4 offset. The 0147 1.5" offset, the only change is going to be that this becomes 1.5". Now, the reason I like that is the client can maintain his 3/4, but he'll be able to take the arm and push it back into the thickness of the door by that 3/4 inch or 1/2 inch or whatever you like, so that the door, because of its thickness, sits centered on the bottom arm. Now, you might think that this hardware is not really substantial. It sure doesn't look very substantial. But let me show you how looks can be deceiving. The length on the bottom arm is 9 5/8. It's a serious piece of hardware. The 0147 or its sister, the L0147, that's made for lead line doors. I stock pivots that'll hang a 3,000-pound door. Getting to 1,000 pounds on a pivot, easy peasy. A day in the life for a pivot is a 500-pound rated pivot. Day in the life, if it's center hung. So I love the pivot idea. Now, if you were to order the 0147, you're going to get the bottom and the top. What you don't get are intermediate pivots, and you may or may not want those. I would want them just to help keep the doors true plumb level and square as best as possible. And this is what an intermediate pivot looks like. You can get them in 3/4 or 1.5" offset. Not a problem. And that's what it looks like. You've seen them countless times. You just may never have noticed them. What I don't obviously love about the pivot is that you're going to see all of it. You're going to see all of it. It's going to be a lot more expensive than hinges, than sauce, and certainly a lot more expensive than butt hinges. Now, if you are intent on butt hinges, what I would do is I would do I don't know if I have, I would do a CB199 by Stanley. Concealed bearing. Let me pull up the catalog. 2010 Architectural Hardware Catalog. CB199. That means it's a concealed bearing, cleaner look, because it's concealed bearing, not the exposed bearing packets that you see here. Those are all exposed bearing packets. I don't want to see that. And then do a 6 tall. So the CB199 is concealed bearing. It is heavyweight. It is non-ferrous. You can do them in brass, bronze, or stainless. And I'm just clicking through here to get to it. Just bear with me. There we go. CB199, brass or bronze, polished and plated or painted. Now, I know Stanley will do black. They may do white as well. I'm not really sure. But you can do a 6 by 4.5, and that's going to be the bee's knees. You can do a 6 by 5. Now, the width is going to be based on what degree of opening you want to get to. That means you got to run the formula for wide throw. So you absolutely want to think about how wide of a hinge you want to order. Don't order 4.5 just because that's what somebody told you is available. Order the right hinge. And what I mean by that is running the formula for wide throw. In this catalog, on its page 7, it's the formula is door thickness minus backset times 2 plus the clearance, you'll need clearance, plus the inset. So if the door is 2 1/4 and you got a 1/4 inch backset, times 2 is 4 inch. Let's say that material out there is 3/4 thick. So now we're at 4 3/4, and let's say that the inset is 0 because they're flush. So that's 4 3/4. That means, and you go up to the next biggest hinge, that means you need a 5 inch wide hinge if you want the doors to go to 180 degree. I sure would. I'd want to get them out of the way. Fully open. And I would also then consider, I would absolutely consider a cabin hook or something to hold those doors open. Heaven forbid the wind catches it and it comes slamming. So I would want to make sure if I was taking those doors to 180, I'd want to keep them at 180 is what I would want to do. Cabin hook would be nice. So we talked about weather stripping it. We talked about hanging it. Those are the methods I would consider. I do like the CB 199. Now, I'm in the job of specifying, not in the job of paying for it. That's a pretty costly hinge that I just talked about. At the end of the day, the Christian Moist article obviously worked with probably 5 inch tall, heavyweight solid stainless. Yeah, do you need to reinvent the wheel? No. At the end of the day, you're not going to find a catalog that says it's kosher to hang a 200-pound door that's 5 foot wide. You're not going to find it. You could also save some money by going with a steel-based hinge, a CB 168, or you could just go with a an FB 168 or an FB 199. That's a steel-based hinge. So you got to decide what's most important. There is definitely a cost difference there. And what's nice about Stanley's, they've got this chart. So we're out here at the CB 168. The CB 199 will be similar load ratings, And we stock these BB 852s should you ever encounter a 2,000-pound door, which you will if you go be a tourist at Alcatraz in San Francisco. You'll see lots of detention hardware there. So very cool, very neat. I think we've covered everything on those doors. Back to the article. Chain bolts, carriage bolts. Let's talk about locking hardware just really quick. Cane bolt. Easy peasy. Not much to it. Chain bolt. Easy peasy. Not too much to it. Now, if you want to lock them with a key cylinder, I would sure like the idea of, I would like the idea of a mortise lock, or actually what would be cool. Yeah, if you have locking hardware, you're going to be tempted to want some sort of a pull handle, and that's going to ruin the look. Here's what you could do. You could do, not really expensive. You could do a Kaba Ilko deadbolt. Door thickness is no problem. It's going to look like this. Whatever the thickness is doesn't matter. Then what you could do is put a really small piece of hardware, a flush pole. That's a bad example because of how expensive it is, but you can get into, a really small flush pole here, just so that you can put your hands into something and get the door opened and closed. A little big, little big. Somebody has some nice circular ones. That's a finger pole. It might be Ives. Anyway, some sort of, if you're going to put a lock on it, you'll need some means by which to secure the door. And if you're going to do it and stay in the concept of concealing the hardware, you can look at an accurate mortise lock. What's nice about accurate is, I don't know what this style dimension is, but it's not 6-inch, let's say. Let's say that this is 3.5-inch. I'm just pulling a number out of thin air. If it's 3.5-inch, what you could do is you could do a narrow style mortise lock. And if you deal with hardware ever, you're going to want to get to know the name of Accurate. When no one else can do the work, Accurate gets the call. That's for sure. They have narrow style locks. Let's see, right here. 85, 8600 series narrow style mortise lock. So if it's 3.5, you're going to need to be mindful of an astragal that you add. You're going to want to balance that out. But yeah, you can do an 1.75-inch back set. You can also do that in aluminum storefront hardware from Adams Wright. It'll be far less expensive. But all you'd have on an idea like this is a cylinder on the outside. You'd probably have a thumb turn on the inside so that you could retract the latch. But that's just typical for this material. You don't have to have trim on it in the sense of needing to actually rotate something. You could do this in a deadbolt function where all you would have is going to be a key on the outside and a thumb turn on the inside. Deadbolt 8503. It's just a deadbolt is all it is. So easy. Lots of ways to do it, and it's always fun. Okay, so that will wrap up this video, and if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you.
Thank you for watching, and if you've enjoyed this video, please click thumbs up, please subscribe, and maybe even send the video to someone that you know. Thank you.